We live in a twilight world. Let's do a recording. It should be a nice and easy, quick one. So today's world stage theatre event we're going to be talking about is the Bondi Beach shooting that happened, I guess, a couple of weeks ago now, yeah? Allegedly, supposedly, a father and son, jihadists, started shooting at some sort of Jewish celebration that was happening on Bondi Beach. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really give it much attention at the time, so forgive me if I'm getting like minor details wrong. But yeah, I believe they're a father and son shooting at a Jewish celebration. Images like this are emerging online everywhere. Supposedly civilians running away from the event. But I don't know, there's something a bit off about these pictures as always. Like a lot of the people in the crowd there are facing the other way now. Perhaps this is just a regular photo of someone on a regular day. Maybe it's CGI, maybe it's staged. We don't really know, but we don't really need to focus on exact details like that. But here's an image that's not been cropped. And here you can see two guys just casually sitting there filming the chaos. I think it's important to point out, whenever there's an illusion operation, the Ghost Legion, the Department of Dirty Tricks, who is in charge of creating all of these illusion operations, they will always have their operatives sitting around the event filming it. Yeah. I'm not saying that these two are Ghost Legion operatives, but I'm just saying that whenever there's an event, the Ghost Legion will always have their members around the event filming it on a black mirror, a smartphone device, whether it's an explosion, a shooting, a terrorist attack. The footage will then be given to MI6, who will then process it through their supercomputers, and it will be flooding social media. It will flood TikTok, it will flood Instagram, it will flood Twitter. Yeah? This is what they mean when they talk about the TikTok war. They're talking about open source intelligence, but the average person believes that when they see some shaky footage filmed on a smartphone of the event, and they trace it back to the account on TikTok, and it appears to be from like Susan Jones 814192 on TikTok, they assume it's a real person. They don't understand that a member of the Ghost Legion filmed it and then handed that footage to MI6 or the 77th Brigade, who then runs it through a supercomputer and pumps it out and floods social media. So these little 10-second clips are everywhere, when really it's 7 Ghost Legion guys standing around the event filming it. But of course, they also want regular folks to film it as well. But this is like a contingency plan or a backup, just in case members of the public don't film it. Because it's very hard, if you think about it, to just be randomly filming in the same direction an explosion or a shooting goes off. Like, how would you do that unless you knew? You know, the mathematical odds of you being filming in the direction at the right time of an explosion is near impossible. But somehow world stage theatre events are always caught on a smartphone device. Anyway, let's move on. So here's the location, Bondi Beach. This is called Archer's Park. I'm going to assume it's called Archer's Park because of this curve. It looks like an archery bow, as in bow and arrow, used by an archer. Shots fired from this bridge here. And this is the parkland where Hanukkah festival was taking place. Now this building here is the Bondi Pavilion. Yeah, the Bondi Pavilion. By the way, the Star of David is also a double cross, yeah? But that's a different topic for a different day. So 9 times out of 10, over in the Anglosphere, a pavilion is also a theatre. yeah, where, theatrical performances happen. And if you're not with me on that, perhaps you think I'm stretching a bit here. Here's the back of the Bondi Pavilion, and it clearly says theatre. Yeah? Now, I've been pointing this out for a long time and making this connection that world stage theatre events tend to happen right outside of or next to a theatre building or an opera building or a film studio. Or if you get the ruler out, they tend to be something like exactly 33 miles or 33 kilometers from the nearest theatre building or opera building. So once again, a world stage theatre event happening right outside of a building that is associated with theatre. Also, when they did whatever it was, their memorial, yeah, they projected the Hanukkah, the Jewish candle thingy, onto the Sydney Opera House. Yeah, the Sydney Opera House, and they are projecting this upon it. This, to me, is enough. Yeah, I don't know about you. It's up to you what you believe in. But this, to me, is a clear sign from whoever is writing the script for this comical experience that we call life. They're taking a piss, or they're giving the audience the wink-wink language, and they're also taking the piss out of people that buy into this and believe it. They're letting you know that what you are witnessing is pure theatre within the op era, the era of illusion operations. I mean, I don't know how much more in your face you can get that what you are seeing is theatre than this, projecting symbols onto an opera house. I think they also did a candle as well. And people say to me, like, what do you think of it? My response is always the same: an amazing piece of theatre. Now, just to remind people, that theatre, the root word means to behold. So when I say theatre, I mean it's there for you to witness, and you behold it in the theatre of your mind. Now, your mind is a creation factory. Your mind is meant to be for you, for your imagination, so you create things that make life in this hellish realm a bit more enjoyable. But what they're doing with illusion warfare and deception and theatricality and smoke and mirrors is they're filling your imagination space with what they want you to see, thus getting you to co-create it with them and therefore put blood on your hands. So ultimately, what everyone in the world needs to do is get off the internet forever and throw their smartphone into the fire and never again gaze upon a black mirror. Of course, it's not going to happen because most people, they love their misery, they love the nightmare, they get a thrill out of all this kind of stuff. So for anyone that's new, I'll give you a few quick examples of the world stage theatre connection to actual theatre buildings and opera house buildings, yeah? So Abraham Lincoln was assassinated inside of a theatre. Julius Caesar was murdered on the steps of the theatre. Petri Stolopin, the Prime Minister of the Russian Empire, was assassinated in the Kiev theatre. Zelensky, he was an actor. Here he is getting given the Oscar from Sean Penn. But yeah, man, he's obviously the world's most highest paid actor. But during the Battle of Kiev, the section that he was doing his live streams from, for people that don't remember, allegedly Kiev was being overrun by 152,000 of Russia's most elite troops. And old brave Zelensky here chose to stay with his people. And every night he was live streaming from the streets of Kiev. Well, where he was doing it, that area was sealed off, was right outside the Kiev Opera House. I know because I was in Kiev at the time. Hitler, as soon as Hitler came to power in 1933, the Reichstag building, the German Parliament building, was burnt down. So he had to move into the Klopp Opera House. And all of his famous speeches done, Hitler, his famous speeches were from the Klopp Opera House, if you can believe it. Putin. So Putin was elected because before the elections, the MI6 and KGB worked together and they sent Tony Blair, you know, a Western leader, to go and meet with Putin in the Opera House, or I think it might be the Mariinsky Theatre. I don't know, the theatre that's in St. Petersburg. I can't remember off the top of my head. But this sort of photo op of Blair, Tony Blair, a Western-facing leader, meeting with Putin before the elections is what won over the Russian population. Yeah? So MI6 put in Putin, and it was all done at the theatre, and I believe they were watching War and Peace. There was the Crocus City Hall attack in Moscow, 2024. Yeah, it was a music venue, but obviously, yeah, it's an amphitheatre. As you can see, this would have been the seating. This is the stage. It's a theatre building, yeah? There was the Moscow Theatre Siege in 2002. This is quite a funny one because the terrorists went on stage and the performance was actually about soldiers during World War II. And if you ever watch a documentary about it, it's quite funny because the audience members don't know that these are supposedly real terrorists. They think it's part of the show, which is kind of, you know, interesting in regards to like illusion warfare and all that kind of stuff. The Paris attacks in 2015, I want to say, they ended at the Bataclan Theatre. And then the 7/7 bombings. London is the theatre capital of the world, so there were 4 separate explosions. I haven't been able to find a direct building link, but like I said, man, it's the theatre capital of the world. So anyway, back to the event in question, the Bondi Beach shooting. Yeah, I'm not really bothered whether people actually died or not. You know, I know a lot of people are saying it's a false flag, blah blah blah. The thing is, like, you know, 48 hours after this happened, it became old news, and there was already the next thing, right? What was the thing that followed it? I think it was the attempted assassination of Putin. Apparently 91 drones were flown towards his residency. Once again, something we can't really prove happened or not. My advice to people is, like, you need to evolve from real and fake. This idea that you're going to sit online and decide that something is real or fake. Understand it's, like I said, theatre. It's there to behold. They're trying to fill the theatre of your mind with this kind of stuff so you help co-create this reality. That's why I call it an illusion, yeah? When you think of like a magician levitating on the stage, he is actually levitating, right? His feet are not touching the ground. It's the story he overlays on the top that is the false perception, right? An illusion is a false perception of reality. So he has got like a 2mm steel cable holding him up. And that cable is very real. Yeah, and it's attached to, you know, a pulley system and a rig, which is all very real, which is being controlled by someone behind the curtains. It's all very real, yeah? And then obviously smoke and mirrors, you know, theatricality, all of the lights flashing, there'll be dancers, there'll be loud music, are all distractions, you know, which, fuzzies up your observation, yeah? So you're not going to be looking for the steel cable that's holding him up. It's going to be invisible to the naked eye anyway, because you're so busy looking at all of this theatricality and flashing lights, yeah? But nevertheless, like I said, the magician is actually levitating. Usually it's the story that's being overlaid. So he will give you some spiel about how he's going to use the power of his mind, or angels are going to assist him, or I don't know, whatever the story is. But that's what is false. It's the story being overlaid on top. So I think, you're free to do what you want, innit? It's your life. It's up to you how you approach to meet these things. But for me, illusion is a better way to look at things other than real and fake. Because you can use lots of fake things to create something real. You can use lots of real things to create something fake. Most of the time, real and fake blur together. When we use illusion, we're not necessarily saying that it's 100% fake and it's all in your imagination. We're just using it as an analogy to what the magician does on a stage, which then coincides with world stage theatre. And then, of course, this coincides with actual magic with a K, mind causation, positive thinking, thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become reality, and all this kind of stuff, yeah? Anyway, I'm sure I've been talking about this shit for a long time now. I think you either get it or you don't. We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.